Hey everyone, Jeff here, and as a thank you for listening to my show, I'd love to offer you a gift completely free. I have a full PDF with tactics and insights for how I built amazing relationships that have skyrocketed my personal success. If this sounds like something you're looking for, all you have to do is click the link in the show notes below. Now, on to the show. Welcome back to another episode of Back to the Basics with Jeff Fenster. I'm so excited to have Byeongjun Moon here in studio. Excited to have you down from USC. It's a Trojan Day.
Yeah, totally. I'm happy to be here. You know, my friend George had a wonderful interview with you, so so excited to see how that turns out. But pleasure to meet you. Obviously, been reading about you for a bit, and really respect on how you sort of change from different, industries, from like the cyber things to like the gym and etc. Really impressive how you do that. I think it's like a really like solid example of like compounding. I think I envy a lot of people who do compounding. I think a lot of successful people that I see around me, like Sam Altman, Paul Graham, all these like big tech leaders, philosophical leaders, are really like compounding, right? They don't have a linear trajectory, and I see a lot of those traits from you. I'm sure you work hard too. So
it helps. That's the fuel.
Yeah,
that's the fuel. But I mean, you're going to put in your effort. So if you use compounding, you can get more benefit for the same amount of effort.
Yeah. So I think for the first question, I want to ask, what's sort of your tip or your guide around like moving around different industries? I think a lot of people like myself or my friends, my peers, we always try to find hard problems to solve, and we come up with solutions to solve them. But I feel like if you go into that sort of loophole, it's kind of hard to jump through different industries and different sectors. So I think you must have like a, tip around how you do that, I guess.
Yeah. So it's a matter of style, and it's a matter of what kind of a person you are. I use sports as an analogy because I played sports and it's easy to comprehend. But in baseball, I was a scrappy leadoff hitter, so I would hit a lot of singles and try to steal bases. And occasionally I would hit a home run because the ball would just travel extra far, but I wasn't swinging for home runs. And so what I mean by that is I don't necessarily seek out hard problems. I want to change the world through micro gains. I'm not here. I don't have the background and the skill sets to create the cure for cancer. I'm not Elon Musk about to go take us to Mars. I'll happily go on the journey if and when he figures it out and it's safe.
Yeah.
I'll invest in Elon Musk. But I want to be the guy who provides the shovels and axes and pitchforks. And so if you look at the gold rush back hundreds of years ago, the people who made the most money were the people who rented bedrooms to the people hunting gold, who provided the shovels and the pickaxes and the clothing and the food. And so I understood that. And I was like, well, okay, it's a lot of work to try to strike for gold, and you're going to do a lot of effort, and maybe you find it, maybe you don't. But I can make a lot of money helping people seek gold, right? And so for me, going from industry to industry is because I understand what entrepreneurship and business is. I'm very good at business and scale and startups. It doesn't matter the industry. So whether it's a restaurant, construction, payroll and HR, digital marketing, cryptocurrency, if we're going to have an idea, you and me, we're going to sit here and talk about it. I'm very good at, in my skill set, I'm very good at taking an idea all the way through, past MVP, up to product, up to market, through market segmentations, hopefully to a certain version of scale, attract capital, attract talent, build culture, and now we have a company. Then I need somebody who's better than me to come in and take it from there to the next level. And I'm really good in that 0 to this level. So for me, jumping from industry to industry it's exciting for me because I love to learn. And so for me, the big problem is learning new industries. Like, okay, I know nothing about restaurants. Let's start a restaurant. I know nothing about construction. Let's start I know nothing about shows, and now I have a podcast and a studio, right? I like that. And so I get really excited getting to dig my hands in. So I feel like if you and your friends really love the idea of a big problem, you probably don't want to go industry to industry. That's probably not going to be the type of entrepreneur you're going to be. It doesn't make my way better or worse or your way better or worse. It's just identifying. It's like music. I could be in a country and you could be in a rap. They're both music. They're just different kinds of music, right? It's what favors and more the kind of person you are and what you're after.
Interesting. I think finding the balance is really hard, where like there is a lot of, I guess, like capitalistic desires that a lot of people look for, but also at the same time, I guess like some people are interested in solving the, as mentioned, like big problems, and I guess like sort of like virtually did as well. I think there's like benefits and meaning in pursuing both ways, and I think it's like oftentimes a lot of people my age are having a challenge sort of balancing the two aspects.
But it's supposed to at your age. You're at that age where you're becoming who you're going to be. You're defining yourself. You're a young adult, and you're figuring out in the world where you're going to have your place. And when I was your age, I was a dipshit. Like I had no idea what I was going to do. None at all. Like no clue whatsoever. And I just remember like, how am I going to make some money? Like I had no idea. And I think most people your age don't. And the fact that you have some clarity means you're so far ahead of most people your age that I wouldn't let that discourage you, and I envy solving the big problems because they need to be solved. I just don't think I have what it takes to solve them because I don't have the ability to take it all the way. I can't take us to Mars. I can come up with an idea to take us to Mars, bring in some capital, bring in some scientists, help them get started, figure it out.
The coordinator.
Yes, early on. Yes, I'm the guy who can make all that happen. But I can't take us the whole way. So I just found my own niche in entrepreneurship that I'm a startup entrepreneur. I'm really good at that to a certain level. And so I like to start companies. I like to watch them grow. And then I like to watch them shine beyond me, which doesn't mean I'm going to become the richest guy in the world. I'm not going to beat out Elon Musk or Bezos or Zuckerberg because they solved big problems. They built big companies. But that's okay because everyone has capitalistic goals.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, you don't have to, but most people do. We live in America. It's a
capitalist country.
It's a capitalist. It's capitalism at its finest, and we're a consumption-based economy, which means our economy is built off consumption. People have to spend money, otherwise the economy fails. We have too many restaurants and service providers and trinkets being sold and widgets being sold that if people hold all their money and don't spend, this economy fails. So that's why you'll see the government's always giving money to make sure that people are spending money. That's how our economy's built. And so to me, what is the opportunity? Provide things for people to spend money on. Acai bowls, construction,
gyms,
digital marketing. Exactly. Yeah. These different elements.
Cool. Speaking of big problems, I know we previously sort of chatted about longevity. What are your thoughts on like the big problems in longevity, I guess, and any ideas on like, improving the field?
Oh, yes. So we were talking offline for those who are tuning in. My biggest passion is longevity. And I think the big chasm that has shifted over the last 3 to 5 years is the idea of aging. And it used to be thought that aging was inevitable. And there's a group in the longevity field that now believe aging is a disease like everything else. And they're putting forth a ton of effort to stop aging.
Yeah.
Anti-aging, reverse aging. Can you cure aging if it is a disease? And so the field, they're seeing so many things happening from, Dr. David Sinclair from Harvard. He's one of my favorite figureheads in this space and what he's doing in the longevity field. And understanding, I take metformin. I'm not diabetic, but they've proven, not in humans, but in 15 different mammal species that metformin can increase the lifespan and increase longevity. And what they are starting to see is how and why. And then there's rapamycin, which in small doses can do the same thing. And then there's all these other compounds that they're finding in nature and realizing like, how can we reverse and cure aging? Because by doing that, we increase lifespan and we also increase healthy lifespan, which are the two different things, right? I don't want to live to be 300, but be decrepit for 200 years of it. I want to live to be 300 and be young, vibrant, and capable as much of it as I can. And because when you talk about the big problem, dying is inevitable for everybody. So the big problem, it hits every human being on the planet, hits every living thing on the planet. Everything alive will die at this moment. And so how do we expand that lifespan? And the big four horsemen of death is, cancer, diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases, and diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and neurodegenerative diseases. And so if we can figure out how to stop and reverse those four, we can expand lifespan.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the original, I guess, goal of longevity was to increase healthy lifespan, right? We're not saying, humans shouldn't die, humans should live forever. but the fact that we should try to enable humans to live to their fullest as much as possible. And I feel like there's even a debate in the field where they're saying, oh, some people want to like make humans live like 500 years, and comes a whole bunch of problems there.
Yep.
I think the problems that I meant are around like economic problems, are around like policy regulation problems. There's a lot about like the theoretical problems as well. Especially like I guess like with your experience in like so many different fields, I think something that I thought you could maybe help with or have a like really big impact on would be like the regulatory or like economic space, right? It's like a pay to play sort of space, and yeah, just wondering what you think about that.
Well, I mean, it is pay to play. It's not cheap to get access to longevity knowledge, and longevity supplements, longevity. Now, keep in mind, the challenge is there's a lot in what you just said, because can the world sustain me living and you living to be 500? Well, no. Right now, the world's not built to have that many human beings live that long. And the lifespan increased over the last 100 years, most notably because of one thing, the invention of antibiotics. That is the only thing that has expanded the human lifespan and allowed us to start to have what we call slow dying or slow death things. Heart disease, strokes, or heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative. Those things don't happen if you die at 40, traditionally, right? You normally get eaten by a lion, or you fall off a motorcycle, you die fast. Antibiotics allowed those things to us to be able to live longer, to now have these longer dying things. I do realize that people who have economic means live longer. It's shown statistically because they have better access to quality nutrition, better access to quality medicine, better access to information, so they know what to take and what not to take and what to do and what not to do. So as far as regulatory stuff, there's also a lot of regulations that prevent us from making big gains because the pharmaceutical industry is built to treat, not cure. Western medicine is built to treat, not cure these diseases and fix blunt force trauma issues. If I fall off my motorcycle, there's nothing better in the world than Western medicine to put me back together again. If I'm fighting certain illnesses, there's a lot of regulation that is preventing us from testing certain things. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I don't get into all the conspiracies that a lot of people might have, but I do understand that we're a capitalistic society. Money talks. And there's a lot of money in pharmaceutical. There's a lot of money in Western medicine. There's a lot of money being thrown up to Washington that is electing these officials on behalf of these groups, and they're getting the loudest voice. And if you and I have a differing view without any person in power, we're not going to get very far. And there's also a lot of systems that, I mean, if you just look at the food supply, and this is the greatest one. I mean, you look at everything from Skittles to cereals to candies to breads. If you look at the ingredients used in America and the ingredients used in every other first world country, they're different. They're different because most first world countries don't allow the additives that we do here in the U.S. They're cheaper additives for the food makers. So Skittles makes a different product everywhere else but the United States.
Same thing with Fanta.
Yeah, same thing with Fanta. And there are certain dyes and colors that have been known to cause cancer that we consume every day here in America that the rest of the world says you're not putting that in our food supply. And this just came out last week, but I think the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, just signed a bill to outlaw certain elements of food like that are in Peeps and Fanta. Come 2027 in California, you will not be allowed to have those food additives. So there is a lot of politics. There's a lot of regulatory things that are in the way of longevity. And I don't know what side you're really after when you say the big problems around longevity. I do want to expand the amount of time we have on this planet. I do want to live to be 200, so I'm in that camp. But I also want to be healthy to be 200. I want both. And I want to prevent people from dying from the slow deaths, the big four. I want to expand that through understanding both supplements, nutrition, exercise, also how people are getting... If I don't have a lot of money and I can't afford quality nutrition, I shouldn't be eating chemicals just because they're loading it in the food supply. Yeah. I think that there are things that can happen there. I don't want to spend my time fighting the regulatory fights anymore. I did that once for equity-based crowdfunding, and I'm done with that.
Tell me more about that, equity-based crowdfunding.
Yeah, so I was a company I failed at many years ago called Equity Circle, and the idea was an old 1930s law in the United States wouldn't allow me to use crowdfunding to raise money for my company in exchange for equity. meaning I couldn't stand on the street and go to 1,000 people and ask for $100 and say, I'll give you equity to raise $100,000. I had to go to an accredited investor or somebody I knew. Well, for a young entrepreneur who's 19, 20, 21, 22, they may not know a lot of accredited investors because an accredited investor has over $1 million net worth or makes over a couple $100,000 a year. So their peers are traditionally not there. And so if I want to go to 1,000 people to raise $100 from to get $100,000, why can't I? And I understand in the 1930s when we didn't have social media and Google and information in our pockets, why it was dangerous for me to be a snake oil salesman and go and do that. That makes sense. It was just an antiquated law. And so fast forward with the power of smartphones and the power of the internet, you can really quickly Google my name. You can really quickly Google my company or my thesis or my idea. And you can say, okay, Jeff, before I give you that $100, hold on and Google. You can do your own due diligence immediately. So there was no need for it. So I wanted to build a platform, a piece of technology that was going to be adaptive for someone like yourself or myself to go on there and say, okay, I have this idea for a company. I want to start a coffee cup company. I'm going to load up the pictures and the videos and the graphics, and then people who are interested in investing from around the world could go and say, I'll put $50 into this. I'll put $25 into this. And while I won't find one person to give me $100,000 or $1 million, maybe I could find 1,000 people to give me $100. And I can get there that way. And it's micro investments from the masses. And so we pushed really hard on the regulatory side. It went before Congress and the Senate and all the different legalized bodies that make decisions. And eventually they passed the law legalizing equity-based crowdfunding. And it was great. It was a great moment. We cheered. We were excited. I spent too much time on the regulation, not enough time on my application. And so I failed. The application was poor compared to my competitors, and I got nowhere with it. And so I learned I'm an entrepreneur. I leave politics to politicians. I leave the regulatory side to the lobbyists. You need good lobbyists. Longevity is important because it touches everybody. We all know someone who's passed away, or most of us do. It's sad. It's sad for the family, and especially disease. It's scary. And I think that we can help more people live a better life. And if you're not fighting illness and you're healthy, you can have a bigger impact in the world. Keeping you alive for 200 years, you're going to solve many more bigger problems than if you don't live to be 200. If you only live to be 100, the world loses 100 years of your brain, your power, your capability. And I think that that's better for humanity. Who knows what you're going to do the second 100 years on this planet, right? Mm-hmm. So the key is, how do we get there? Hey, everyone. Just wanted to take a second to say how incredibly grateful we are for all of our listeners, and I want to hear from you. Your feedback is greatly appreciated, and it will only help us make this show better for you. So any questions you have, click the link in the show notes below and let us know. Now, back to the episode.
I was wondering if the law changed, and I'm happy that it did, because I saw companies like WeFunder, Republic, etc., who somehow have equity-based financing or crowdfunding these days.
And there's lots of them. I mean, there's a lot of these websites out there now, and you can go and do micro investments, which you should. I mean, even if you don't have a lot of money, you should, because you're
a few dollars.
It's a few dollars, but you're part of the process. You're part of the team. You're funding the next big ideas that are happening. I mean, I make micro investments all the time on some of these platforms. I mean, I own hundreds of companies through $25, $50, $100 that I don't know the founders, but I like their idea. And if I can give a little bit of money and own a small, I mean, am I going to make a ton of money? No, but I don't need to. I still get the reports. I'm still a shareholder. Yeah. And there are some big ideas being done, like some really cool things that are going to change the way we interact, the way we do things, the way the world moves. And I like information because it teaches me things. So now I understand how other companies are running. I see what they're doing, how they're innovating, how they're thinking through problems. And I can then take that and apply it to my own companies. It's first world education right there.
Feels like angel investing, but way smaller scale.
Yes.
More companies to manage, yes. I guess.
And sometimes it's $10. I mean, you can do in some of these for $10, where it's like, do you want a burrito today or do you want to own a piece of a company? I'll have to own a piece of a company. I think that's more exciting.
Totally. No, I see some crazy ideas on these platforms, like carbon capture technology out of nowhere. I was like, how do you fund carbon capture technology with $10? And it's you see these things happening. And some of them actually went to Series C and
well, and those are the big problems I'm all about, because this is I'm not going to get on the political side, but global warming or climate change, pick your term, whether it's man-made or not, regardless of what side of the coin you're on,
We still have carbon emissions.
we still have a problem. The world's getting warmer and we have to figure it out. So regardless if it's human-based or not, it's happening. The world's getting hotter every year and we have too much carbon. So we can try to regulate the reduction of carbon, which isn't going to happen, or we can come up and allow innovation to figure out how to use new technologies and new ideas to remove that carbon from the world. Same thing with plastics. Like I just read 6 months ago, there was this new microorganism that eats plastic, and this company's figuring out how to mass produce these to where the plastic gets, this thing eats plastic.
Almost like farming those microorganisms to eat more
Correct.
plastic.
So instead of saying no more plastic, when plastic's in everything, and in America, China, India, the three, biggest producing of plastic countries in the world, and literally 60% of the planet, instead of asking everyone to change their behavior, which never works, we're going to figure out how to allow them to continue those behaviors and make it where it doesn't have a negative impact. Carbon emissions is another one. If you can figure out how to reduce the carbon in the world, and this is the truth, like I drive a truck. I want an electric truck. I don't have an electric truck yet because, number one, they're still coming out with them. It's new. But once but once they get to the point where I can replace my truck's performance and what I use it for with a more efficient and globally climate responsible way, I'm all in. And I want it. Like trust me, I had my I almost bought the Ford Lightning, but it doesn't tow. And that was a big problem for me because I tow things with my truck. So it couldn't duplicate what I needed yet, but I'm waiting for it. Like I want it. I'm just not going to go and drive a Model 3 when I need a truck, even though I do understand the negative impact it's having on the climate. And so innovation and entrepreneurship is where I believe the answers are to all these problems. And regulation gets in the way sometimes, and there has to have a safe playing field and a fair playing field. But I think we overregulate industry too much. We have to allow innovation to solve it. That is what solves the problems of our world because of how this country is built. And so I think the way you're going to get the average American to make better choices is to provide them a on-ramp to make better choices without them changing their lifestyle.
Interesting.
And that's the big problem I'm hoping you're going to solve.
What's next for you? I'm really curious on, what's on your mind right now? What is the next company that you're going to be building?
Right now I'm spending a lot of time on WeBuild. It's our construction company. So we build all the Everbowls. I build all of Shaquille O'Neal's Big Chickens. I build Drew Brees' restaurants and his stretch zones. And now I'm turning this into a for everybody company. So we're building facilities all across the country in Atlanta, Las Vegas, and going to be offering our services to every high growth retailer restaurant concept that's looking to build many of them. And we're doing it in an innovative way, utilizing technology, building more of them off-site, more modular by design, bring down that cost, so reduce the risk. If you have a retail concept or a restaurant concept, bring down the cost so you can open more of them, have more impact. And I'm excited about this company because it's been taken off. It scales really well. We've already been growing it since I started it in 2017 just for Everbowl, but over the last almost 20 months, we've taken on new clients, and I'm excited about it. And then another company called Unevolved Concepts, where we're going to partner with people who want to create a restaurant, but they don't know a menu, they don't have a design, they don't have a name. So we'll help them through our infrastructure, ideate, value engineer the builds, obviously build them, create the SOPs, help them scale it, grow it, and utilize it. So it's just utilizing what we already have here to continue. And then when I'm done with that, I have a few ideas. Longevity is a space I will play in. I have some ideas there that I need a few things to happen in the world before I can enter because I need the science part to catch up. I don't have the science background. So I need scientists to solve a few more challenges, but I think that there's some very exciting things coming. And Dr. David Sinclair from Harvard, he believes so as well. And if you follow him, obviously Peter Attil is another guy who's really big in this space. And he just came out with a new book called Outlive. I recommend reading it. It's pretty good. And this is just the areas. For me, it's about really just, I like to disrupt industries in a smaller way, as we talked about. And I like to have some fun while I do it and try to make the world a better place when I can. And it doesn't always mean it's the big problems I'm solving, but I solve a lot of problems for entrepreneurs.
Fire. I know this might be irrelevant. I don't know if I guess we're good on time. I know that the restaurant industry has a huge like margin problem where a lot of restaurant owners supposedly don't make enough money. Even with the food prices going up, the menus are super expensive. Even like fine dining, apparently they don't make that much margin. What's the reason behind that? And how does companies like Everbowl or all these fast food chains, etc., make significant amount of margin?
It's very hard. It's hard for a lot of reasons. And this is the tug of war, right? Because you want to pay your employees well, and therefore you pay them, which means you have to increase the prices of food to do that. You want to have real estate in California where you're going to open your restaurant. Well, landlords charge a lot of money for that. I mean, look how much houses are in California. Think about the commercial real estate space. So to rent a location for an Everbowl or any restaurant, McDonald's or whatever, it's not cheap. So you have your occupancy cost very high. You have your rents, your labor very high. Insurance is very high. You have food costs that go up because in order for the food to get farmed and then driven to you, you have gas prices going up at $6 a gallon. So the trucks that bring the food there is very high. The farmers need the water and the labor there. So they have the same problems at the farming level if it's produce, or the animal level if it's manufactured in a lab. I don't know what's in that. But ultimately you have all these expenses that finally get to you to where Mr. or Mrs. restaurant owner, there's just not a lot of room left. And then what happens is you need to do discounts for some loyalty for clients and customers. Customers need marketing, so you're doing 3PL and 3PD where Uber Eats is coming to pick up the food. Well, they charge you 20%. So if you buy an Everbowl for $10 on DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats, they're going to give me $8. So I've already lost $2 off the top there, and plus all these other things. And so the margins get really thin. And then what happens is you have a day when it rains a lot and no one comes to eat, but you still paid the labor and you still pay the rent and you still have the food that goes bad.
Minimal margin.
Minimal margin. So it's a tough business, but that doesn't mean you can't do it well. And I think the challenge is, like all things, you want to give everybody a livable wage. You want people to make good money, but you want them to have affordable prices. Because if I pay you $100 an hour to work at Everbowl, but I charge $200 for a bowl, you still can't afford the bowl. Yeah. Right? So we have to find a way to bring down the cost, not by cutting labor and making it to where people can't live, but maybe gas prices can come down, or we can use more efficient energy consumption, more efficient ways to grow product, right? Plants. Farming is very expensive. One big storm, one big drought wipes out an entire crop, and now strawberries are more expensive this year, the whole year. Lettuce is more expensive the whole year. So climate change directly affects the price of food, right? If there's a bird flu that wipes out all the chickens, chicken nuggets are going to be more expensive this year because disease happens, right? Yeah. And so you go through all of these different things. Business is hard. It's not meant to be easy, but the margins do get tight. Now, the beauty of restaurants are once you turn profit, it hockey sticks. So the key is to get to a profitable restaurant. It's a challenge, and it's a challenge that restaurateurs fight all across America. And doesn't mean you should cry for a lot of employees and non-business owners go, I'm not going to cry for them. Don't assume just because they own a restaurant that they're rich. A lot of small families derive their income from a locally family-owned restaurant. I mean, that's one of the ways in America that people have paved their way, right? A family recipe, you can open a restaurant without an education. You could be an immigrant here. You could be a long-standing American. You guys can go open a restaurant and hopefully pay for your family. You have to make money to do that. And so we have to empower. The backbone of America is entrepreneurship and business owners. That is what we have to do, and we have to go out and eat. We have to support our local restaurants and Everbowl, and we have to help as many families that are deriving their income from that. And if you really want to make it to where the employees make more money, leave big tips. That's the best way to do it, is tip them. That way, none of it goes to the restaurant. It goes all to that work staff, And I think that's the area that we can help more employees make more money, so we don't have to keep raising prices. Because the more you force the employer to pay the employee, they have to raise the prices. So it's not going to get them further. If you raise the prices on food, then everyone's going to need more money, which is going to raise the prices on more consumables. So now the truck driver has to get paid more. And now that means driving the food to the restaurant is going to cost more. And then the farmer needs to charge more. So now it's going to cost more, which means we're back to square one again and again. And I think that the big problems there is how do we bring down the cost of at the other levels that don't affect humans.
Interesting.
Yes.
Cool. Well, that's all the questions I had.
Well, thank you for coming on today. This has been it's been great. I'm looking forward to talking to you more about crypto.
Yeah, for sure.
And what you're working on.
This is a bunch of random questions, but
it's good.
Helpful to get your perspective on different things.
Well, if there's anything I can ever do for you, I'm always here. And I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing this time with the audience. And congratulations on everything that you're working on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you're looking to level up your relationship capital game, then take a minute and text the word Jeff to 33777 for a free copy of my Network to Millions playbook. The link will also be provided in the show notes below. See you guys next time.